And welcome to another live broadcast. My name is Chris, and of course this channel is bar none 11967. Oh, I'm sorry, 11970. See, old habits die hard. That was my original channel. This is something, well, the first thing I want to talk about is my last video actually got taken down because of, I guess it would be, not AMC, but Cinemax actually flagged the video because it was about Outcast. Even though I was in fair use parameters, they still ended up blocking it worldwide. And I thought that was kind of interesting because if you watch, and I think it was episode 8, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Outcast TV show, there's just, for some reason, there's an area where the main character is asleep on the couch and his TV's on, and all you hear is a commercial that talks about buying gold and silver and the fact that they're worried about an economic collapse. Now, I've watched the whole first season, and there's not one other commercial at all. I just found it funny that they just happened to mention gold and silver, but that video ended up getting taken down because they ended up blocking it worldwide. So YouTube, if you've seen the other videos about censorship, they're doing a really poor job with that, but I just wanted to mention that's why that video is not there anymore. Okay, so what I want to talk about. If you've been watching my videos for the past couple of weeks, I've been talking about how I really feel that this election's going to be a really strange one. I don't think it's going to be your typical election. Now, obviously, this is my opinion. You could differ, you could disagree, that's fine. I'm just stating my opinion. And I have a feeling that it's either going to be Hillary that they selected, and she'll end up either being too sick to continue, or the investigations of her email scandals and all her things that she's been doing with the WikiLeaks might prevent her from becoming president. I just don't think they're going to allow Trump to get in, despite how many millions of people are really on his bandwagon. Whether he knows that or not, I can't answer that question. But I just think there's going to be very interesting situations. Now, if you saw the video I made just the other day about the petrodollar, if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend it. It gives kind of a 101 lesson on the petrodollar and how that affects the world. And I really think when you're talking about China, Russia, India, and all these other countries, they're starting to try and do transactions amongst themselves, taking away the world dominance of the dollar, or at least giving the risk of that to happen. There's going to be a lot of people starting to flock to gold and silver. And if you look at the Dow Jones is at all-time highs. Now, if you know anything about investing, the way it's supposed to be is you're supposed to buy low and sell high. But you see a lot of places in the mainstream media are still pumping the Dow Jones and trying to claim it's a success, showing how wonderful our country's economic system is, even though we are over 17 trillion, if not 18 billion trillion, soon to be $20 trillion in debt. So why would people want to invest in something when it's at all-time highs? And if you look at any of the charts for the Dow Jones, ever since they started QE1 back in December of 2008, and then QE2 in 2010, and then QE3 in September 12th, they've been pumping money into that system to give it the illusion of things getting better and better. It's not the average person that's investing money, because they don't have money to invest anymore. Basically, it's currency. It's not even money. So they're giving the illusion of this wonderful system. And one of the things you learn is the more that they print this currency, the more it devalues. So they can only do this scam for so long before the system crumbles. And I've been watching a lot of videos lately, and I'm talking about like people who know more about charts than I'll ever know, that are really into the numbers, really professional. I mean, these are people, and they're all over the place, and I highly recommend listening. And the vibe that I'm getting, the trend that I'm getting, is that between September, the mid-September of this year, through sometime in the beginning to mid-October, that there's going to be some kind of financial event where there could be a potential crash in the stock market. Now, obviously, if you know throughout history, that's not an impossibility. And when you're reaching all-time highs, if it only takes one major player to do a sell-off to all of a sudden create a panic, and you know the average person is a follower, and they are going to make sure that people follow along. So my thing is, if you are interested in protection and insurance, and that's all I view it as, is my opinion, is it's nothing more than insurance and protection. Stay away from paper markets at this point and get yourself into precious metals. Also things like food and water and things like that, because, I mean, as you could see, there's a hurricane going on. I think down south near Florida. I'm not sure. I don't really live in that area, so it doesn't affect me. But something as simple as a hurricane, if it takes out power for a week, you know what's going to happen. 90% of the people who haven't purchased anything, even though they have plenty of advance notice, they'll all of a sudden flood the stores. So if you have it in advance, you don't have to worry about things like that. I mean, like I say all the time with Hurricane Sandy, and I live in New York, so I experienced this firsthand of what it did. I remember the first night I was coming home right after the storm, and I saw this incredibly long line at the gas station. I mean, literally for miles. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And because the power was out in half of the places, only a few places still had generators to create power. And people were sleeping overnight for miles in their cars just waiting for gas. So anything, if you look at it, the minimum, just for convenience, that this will protect you from any problems that you don't have to worry about in the future. So it doesn't always have to be a cataclysmic event. But I've said before that I really think that there is going to be some kind of distraction that will prevent this election from happening the way they normally do. I trust my instincts. Now, that doesn't guarantee I'm right. I'm not going to sit here and say this is 100% accurate. But the trends I'm seeing is a lot of people are starting to talk about gold and silver like I haven't heard in a while. And they're talking about some kind of event, possibly a collapse in the stock market, which will get people to flood into physical gold and silver. So my thing is, I am going to be getting some more physical gold and silver. I've been stacking for years, so I have what I pretty much need. I've supplied, food and water for things like that, just for the sake of, we even know after a couple of years, prices go up and products get smaller. So if you get stuff in advance, if anything, it saves you money. When you buy things, like, for example, a lot of times when I went shopping, I would buy things that were on sale, even if I didn't need them, because especially something like toilet paper, it doesn't go bad. So if you have extra of it and you bought it when it's on sale, well, this way you don't have to worry about how people get enough for a couple of days and then they have no choice to buy it and they buy it for whatever price. So why spend more money when you don't have to? And you could see the Dow Jones has been testing the all-time highs on several occasions now. And because our government is pumping billions of dollars that they're borrowing from the Federal Reserve, which we will have to supposedly pay back unless they do a reset, they're giving us the bill. That cannot happen forever. And if you look at the charts, how the Dow Jones has risen so strongly since 2001, it's a matter of time before it falls. And when it falls, it's going to be one of those things where you go to bed seeing the charts one direction, and you wake up with all of a sudden there's a huge panic. And at that point, you cannot do anything. So the good thing about things like physical gold and silver, they are never going to go to zero. If you have a stock, it can. Do not wait until the last minute, because if you go to bed one night and you see silver is hovering around the $18 mark, Then all of a sudden you wake up the next day, it's at 20, 25, 30, 35, 50, and beyond. What are you going to do at that point? Now, of course, in the beginning, you're going to get some people thinking, oh, this is the opportunity. Well, I bought at 20, 25, 30, and now it's at 35. I'm going to sell. They're going to regret that decision, in my opinion. And again, I am not saying get these things to become rich, because if you see something like gold start really going upward, like quickly, that means there's a problem with the economy. So what gold does is it stores your wealth and keeps up with the inflation or the devaluation of the dollar. So let's say, for example, all of a sudden gold is roughly around $1,350 to $1,320 an ounce. And my stalker is actually calling me. Dude, seriously, get a life. I don't want to talk to you. When you said those names to me the other day, I have no respect for you. You've been stalking me for 5 years. You're a grown man. Start acting like one. I'm not going to answer your call. So why you still have my phone number is kind of sad, but lose it. But anyway, like I was saying, if you have gold right now, roughly around $1,320 an ounce to $1,350, somewhere around that area. Let's say all of a sudden you wake up tomorrow and it's now $10,000 an ounce. Well, that doesn't mean you could celebrate and say, yay, I have an extra $10,000, an extra $9,000. What that means is there's a problem in the economy and the value of your currency has gone down. So even though the price of gold is going up, it's counteracting with the price of the dollars going down, which means you're going to need more of it to make a purchase. So the gold and silver is not to make you wealthy. It's to preserve your wealth. And that is why, for example, if you bought gold in 1990, let's say you had $10,000 worth of gold, and you had another person that had $10,000 that they kept in the bank. Well, gold in 1990 was roughly around $350 an ounce. It is now $1,300 an ounce. Now you'll say, wow, that's a big difference. But look at the prices of what you could buy items for in 1990, and the same price, the same items, what the price of those things are for today. They're a lot higher. So it's helping you maintain your wealth. Paper does not do that. That is why you need more and more of it as they create more and more of this currency. And it cannot last forever. So when it strikes, it is going to be so fast that the average person will not have time to react. And Thunder Preacher says, if silver goes up to 100, should we sell it? Now, I can't tell people what to do. That's not my job. I always say trust your instincts. But look at it this way. If there's a quick move to silver going up to $100, that means there is a real problem in the economy. There are going to be some people that will sell. There will be a lot of people that will hold on to it. I would not sell. Now, if I think there's going to be a dip at one point, I might sell 1 or 2% of what I have. So this way, if it doesn't go down, I didn't risk a lot. But if it did, I could buy back even more. So if anything, if you were thinking about selling, in my opinion, if it reached that high, sell a little bit so you could potentially buy more, or use it to buy food, or buy a house or a boat or something like that. I can't really tell people you don't want to go all in when it comes to stuff like that, because if all of a sudden it goes from 100 to 500, you're going to be really disappointed you sold all of it at that point. So it's hard to say. Truth Viral says, don't put all your eggs into one basket. Gold bars. What are you going to buy? Half of the store? Haha. Well, that's a good problem to have. You know? The good thing is, like, for example, if you know about the Great Depression, when that stock market crashed, and just like I said, it happens pretty much almost instantly. As soon as there's a panic, everybody reacts, because that's how people are. Most people in this world are followers. They do what everybody else does. So if all of a sudden you get one big sell-off, people panic. But what happens is, when it hit that low, there were still plenty of people that had money, and they started buying things pennies on the dollar. So while 90%, 95%, 99% of the people were suffering, there were more millionaires that came out of that Great Depression than any other time in the U.S. history. So you got to make sure you pay attention to what's going on. So, I mean, to me, that's a good problem to have. If you're going to buy, half of the store, better to be able to have the opportunity and the ability to buy half the store than wondering where you're going to get your any kind of currency to buy a loaf of bread. And these things can happen. So again, it's not based on fear. If you notice, I'm not saying, oh my God, you got to get it tomorrow because everything's going to crash, you're all going to die. No, I don't believe in the fear porn. But I also believe in, if you talk about what could be a possibility and you prepare for it in advance, if it doesn't happen, okay, big deal. You got extra food, so that means you don't have to go shopping for a week or a month. You save yourself money that way. Or you have gold and silver. It's like, okay, well, if it doesn't end up, if it's something I don't need, pass it on to your kids, pass it on to your grandkids. It's a protection. The same thing like I say all the time with car insurance. Nobody buys car insurance, and as soon as they pay, it's like, boy, I can't wait to get into an accident. And you're not sitting there week after week saying, darn, I bought this insurance. Why haven't I had an accident yet? What a waste of time. No, you don't think that way. Because you could be driving for 40, 50 years and never need it. But then the 51st year, you do. You're going to be very glad you have it. So that's why I definitely tell people to think of it as insurance. Thunder Preacher, if you're going to promote a troll that's been harassing me for years, I'm not going to read your comment. So if you're going to keep making ridiculous things, there's a person called The Unit, and I'm going to leave it that way. I'm not going to give him any information because obviously he has to come here for whatever reason to, I don't know. But Unit, all I could say is do whatever you want, but why you need to keep harassing me is beyond me. You're a grown man in your 40s. You have your own channel. Go live a happy life. The fact that you insulted me with name calling the other day shows what kind of level of person you are, and I'm way past the fight that I wanted to have with you back in 2012. That was years ago. Get over it. So anybody that's going to make silly questions, their questions are going to be deleted. So it's just not going to happen. So Truth Viral says, how do you measure your wealth in dollars and ounces? In dollars or ounces? Well, as of now, because there's no major situation, people are basically measuring it in dollars. But that's why I tell people, don't worry about the dollar amount, because if all of a sudden there's an economic problem, and we could see why places like Russia, China, India, even Libya tried it, and Iraq tried it, they wanted to get into their own monetary systems backed by gold, which would cause problems to the petrodollar. So you have to understand how these currencies work to understand why these things are the way they are. So when I tell people, if you consider it in ounces and don't worry about the dollar amount, because if all of a sudden, like I said, if gold went from $1,300 an ounce to $10,000 an ounce, which I'm not guaranteeing it will, but if it does, that just means that the value of that currency has been lowered for whatever reason. So the gold didn't all of a sudden become more valuable. It just meant the currency attached to that gold became less valuable. So there's that definite balance. So my thing is, when there is finally those moves, they move very quickly. Because if you remember when silver went to about $50, and I was making videos about it, you were seeing $2 moves like in an hour. It was actually fun to do it. It was a shame it didn't continue, but back then I didn't know the things that I know now, how easily it could be manipulated and how they would dump paper dollars into it. The problem with that is you can only do it for so long because of the fact that our currencies are backed by nothing. Basically, money now is backed by faith and confidence because the government basically is telling you it's money. Even though there's nothing backing it up. Once people start losing the faith and confidence in paper, and people just realize that's all it is, throughout history, people always go back to gold and silver. And the problem is, people seem to forget this, because before 1971, for thousands of years, gold and silver, and especially gold, was considered money. So it isn't until recent history that people are used to the fact that paper is money. Paper is not money. If you look at your dollar bills, it says Federal Reserve Note. It's a debt note. And all currencies are linked to one another because of what happened in 1971. So I'm not going to sit here and say everything's going to go to crap and you got to be, get this stuff now or you're going to die. I don't do the Alex Jones fear porn kind of stuff. What I'm saying is, and I've said this so many times, better to be 5 years too early than 5 seconds too late. Now, the ironic part is, for years, people would always insult me about my gold and silver. And they'd say things like, oh, look, the price has gone down, the price has gone down. And it has, which has allowed me to actually buy more. Because when it was going to 35, 40, 45, 50, I didn't have a lot of money back then to buy a lot. So I think maybe over $40 silver, I probably bought 10, 20 ounces altogether. I've bought thousands of ounces under 25. So if all of a sudden, let's say for the past 5 years, the price has gone down and down and down. And then, let's say October 2nd, October 3rd, October 4th, all of a sudden, silver is $100 an ounce. Do you think I care about those 5 years that it was going so low for so long? Because at that moment, all of a sudden, that's all washed away. Jonathan Mitchell says, what about platinum bars? Well, they do have platinum coins. The Liberties are also in platinum. I mean, you can't go wrong with precious metals. I mean, the 4 precious metals are platinum, palladium, gold, and silver. Those are what's considered precious metals. Anything else, I mean, like copper, you're going to need so much of it, it's almost not even it's not even a great time. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. But platinum, you can't go wrong with either. But most people, because of the fact money is basically considered through gold, that's going to be the one that's the best as far as money is concerned. But you always notice when you follow charts, silver always follows with gold. And because there is such a high ratio between silver and gold now, I think it's about at least 70-to-1 ratio. Throughout history, and it's debatable what the exact number is, the average ratio of gold and silver was around 16-to-1. So silver actually has the best chance of rising and getting you more fiat currency. But if all of a sudden your fiat currency becomes extremely deflated and it's extremely devalued, would you want to trade your physical gold and silver for that currency? There's always a reset when there's a collapse. And they tend to go with gold and silver. So if you have them, you are protected better than the paper. Martin S. says, after the crash and silver rising, I fear buying and selling gold and silver will be forbidden or taxed by 90%. Well, you can't base your fears on hypotheticals. I mean, they never had a confiscation. Because this confiscation is when they go to your house and make you take your gold. So in 1930, and I think it was 1933, they basically said if you turn in your gold, they'll buy it. And then they raised the value of it once everybody turned it in. But it was not like you have to turn in your silver, otherwise we're coming to pull you out of your house, search it, and take all your gold. So there wasn't a technical confiscation. But again, I've said so many times, you cannot base things on fear. And let's put it this way. If they tax gold and silver by 90%, we're going to have another Tea Party. Nobody is going to pay a 90% tax. And let's say they do a tax. Let's say they do a legitimate 10% tax. Well, if you bought silver at $15 an ounce, $20 an ounce, $25 an ounce, $30 an ounce, even up to $50 an ounce, if all of a sudden silver is 100 and they do a 10% tax, well, 10% of 100 is only $10. So you're still in the plus, in the red. So I wouldn't worry about things like that. I really think that you will see some pretty fast moves once it gets up there, and they tested things. Now, I think because of the fact of the election and the fact that Russia, China, India, and other countries are trying to get away from this gold, well, not even gold back, but this petrodollar world dominance system, it's going to change. Use unit, dude, you're done. You're now blocked. I'm so tired of you. You want to call me a shill? Really? Give proof instead of accusations.
This person, yes, congratulations. This person is just sad. There we go. So now he's banned. I'm tired of his childishness. There's a 40-year-old man who worked for the government. So I deleted all his messages. If you want to follow, that's the shill. He gets paid by the government. He still gets checks. Yeah, he's a troll. He's the one that I wanted to start the fight with back in 2012. So if everybody wants to know what they basically try and use as the reason that there's something wrong with me, because like no one's ever wanted to get into a fight in their lifetime, and meanwhile that was back in 2012. He still to this day keeps coming to my channel. He wants attention because he can't get enough people at his channel, because all he does is he preaches the word of God. That's the funny part. If you go to his channel, he talks about Jesus, right? And yet he comes here and calls me names and accuses me of all these things. So, you know, he's the shill. He actually gets paid by the government. He used to work for the government. And how do I know this? Because we talked on the phone, because he would pretend to be my friend. And to this day, he still has my phone number. So he's gone. I'm tired of his stuff. And that's the things we have to deal with. People like that really need to be screaming for attention. And this is why I know I'm on the right track. Because there's an I can't even say it's an old saying, which is kind of sad. But when it comes to video games, they say this. You know you're going in the right direction when you keep facing enemies. Do you ever notice that when you're playing a game, your job is to continually be attacked by the enemy? That means you're going in the right direction. So the fact that people are always trying to discredit me and make fun of me and say all these things about me, calling me a paid shill, proves to me that I'm on the right track. Because if I was way off base and was talking utter nonsense, wouldn't they want me to continue talking about that stupid stuff to distract people? They would be happy to let me put that stuff out there. So I think of it as a beautiful thing. So anyway, this is what we have to put up in this. My thing is, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving recommendations. You do what you feel is best. But I have a strong feeling, and I've been talking about this for a while now. If you look at my videos back even in February, I was talking about how there could be certain events that could be happening with this election. It just seems like there's too much invested. I mean, you have Alex Jones, you know, really hitting hard with Hillary Clinton, talking about almost acting like he's going to be a martyr. You have all of these things all of a sudden coming out that the elections are rigged, even though they've been rigged for generations. Now all of a sudden this stuff is coming out. You have Donald Trump, which is saying everything people want to hear. But if you know anything about how this government works, I mean, whether this is a democracy or a republic or anything like that, I mean, I'm not even going to get into that stuff. But the way any law can go into effect is the president can't just say, okay, build that wall, and it gets built. Because unless he's a dictator, our government doesn't work that way. So he has to first present a bill. It then first has to go to the House of Representatives, which has to have 2/3 majority vote to approve it. Then it has to go to the Senate, where again it needs 2/3 majority vote. And if they say yes, then it goes to the president, and he can either veto it or he can turn it into a law. So I understand that people want to have this illusion that Trump is going to solve everything. He says very great things. But the problem is he ends up that he can't do anything because he doesn't know that how the average person doesn't know how the system works. Unless you want him as a dictator. Oh, Unit, you're so sad. It's so sad. Dude. I really, you know what? I wish you all the best in your life. The fact that you make all these accusations with no proof is just sad. So anyway, let the 40-year-old government worker call me a pumper. So that's fine. Anyway, I hope he gets his 15 minutes of fame. And people wonder why I wanted to go fight him back in 2012, but I'm way above that at this point. You know, I wish him the best, and when he doesn't have his gold and silver and all of a sudden you see the prices going up really quickly, I'm going to have such a laugh, and I'm going to dedicate a video to him. And as far as Alex Jones, Eddie B. 83 says Alex Jones is an actor. Well, I don't know that for a fact, but he definitely overacts when you see the stuff that he does. You know, he's always, I mean, when I did my live shows back in the days, and even the one I did about a month ago, you never see me say, okay, now we got a break for our sponsors in the middle of an interview. If I did an interview, I will let people talk as long as they want to. Because I don't have, and that's the funny part of people causing me to, like, accusing me of being this paid shill and all this stuff. It's so stupid. It's like, if I interview somebody, I'm going to let them talk while they want. I'm not going to pause for a station break or a commercial break and interrupt them, because to me the message is more important. And the problem I have with some of these other channels, like, they'll give information, but they'll only give you a little bit. And then they'll say, well, if you want all of the information, just join and pay for my service to get it. And to me, that I have a major problem with. And I'm not going to give any specific channels name. I'm not going to point out their names. But there was this one channel, and this person actually uses the Bible to dictate a 49-year span and a 252-year span based on the birth of Jesus. And he actually can pinpoint every single crash with this system. And he tells you all the times he's been right. And he's actually shown document proof that he's been right on the ups and the lows to the exact day. And then this is what he does. He says, well, he'll do plenty of interviews and he'll promote his channel. But then if they ask, well, when is this day coming? And he'll say, well, I can't say the day. If you want to join my service, I'll tell you. Basically, he doesn't say it in those words. So out of curiosity, I wanted to see. I'm like, you know what? If he's charging $9.95 a month or something cheap for that kind of information, it might be worth it. I went to there. They want $800 a month. And this person talks about religion. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. If I had that information, I would post it here freely. So I got to be a pretty bad shill if I'm going to give out information for free. I don't charge anybody for my information. You don't have to sign up for any program. I don't tell people, like the ones that say, oh, you make those orgone pyramids, so whatever. I don't say, well, if you want the information, you have to buy one of my orgone pyramids. I just give out the information because that's the right way to go. If you know, like, people like the unit, and they go onto their website, oh, they got that lovely donate button. They have plenty of advertisements all over the place. So, you know, calling the kettle black, I mean, the hypocrisy. And again, this person's supposed to be extremely religious. You can't be that religious, dude, when you say the things that you said, and I blocked it so nobody can see it. So have fun saying the same things over and over again. No one can see them because you're blocked. You're a very religious person. That's the typical religious person. They're so self-righteous, and they're very good at pointing out other people's flaws. The vanity is unbelievable, so practice what you preach. So anyway, you know me, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I go into tangents. Some people have a problem with that. Some people enjoy it, but this is me being real. This is not me reading from a script. This is not somebody that paid me money to say, okay, you have to promote things. Because do you hear me specifically telling you where to buy gold and silver? Are you hearing me telling you to go buy it from paper, GLD, and SLD? Do you hear me saying, oh, I have a store that sells gold and silver? No, I'm not selling 1 ounce of my gold and silver. What I'm saying is, if you want to protect yourself, go buy it wherever you want. So I'd love to see how they think I am a shill. When I tell people to get things like food and water, do I own a grocery store? No. I just don't understand the logic. But it's easy to say that, because anybody could say anything. I mean, I could say the unit is a child molester. Does that mean he is? I mean, he could be. I don't know. I've never been to his house. He's a 42-year-old supposed religious man who goes on other people's channels and stalks them and calls them when they don't have permission to do so. For all I know, he could be a child molester. I'm just making a guess, so, I mean, who knows? But, I mean, see how easy it is to throw those things around? So, you know, could the unit be a child molester? It's a possibility. I don't know. I can't disprove it. So I'm going to go by his logic. If he wants to call me a shill, well, I could make the same kind of random things out there, but this is the type of things that we have to deal with, ladies and gentlemen. In this kind of system, there are going to be people that don't want you to know what is going to benefit you. My thing is this: if you want to base everything on the Dow Jones and you want to save all the money you can, that's fine. Go for it. I'm not here to tell you what you should do with your money. Now, if you ask me questions, I'll be more than happy to. So my thing is, if, in my opinion, based on what I do, I have used physical gold and silver as protection. And when you know about things like the petrodollar and how the dollar is based on all the other countries in the world staying in the Ponzi scheme, if you've ever seen anybody that did a pyramid scheme, it only works if people keep participating. Once people start leaving the pyramid scheme and you can't get other people to generate more income, it falls apart. So if you know anything about the petrodollar, and again, I have a video that teaches it. I just did it a couple of days ago. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. You know that it's based on the entire world participating. The problem is the entire world gets screwed. They lose their independence based on the fact that you have to convert your currency into the US dollar to buy oil anywhere in the world. How does that benefit them? That's why we could do sanctions on some of these oil-producing countries, because the currency is based on gold, and if we manipulate our price either up and down, it affects the world. So it doesn't help other people. And that's why when you saw like Libya, you saw Iraq, and now you're seeing Russia. China's doing the same thing, but we don't want to talk anything bad about China. Why? Because most of our jobs are there. They buy a lot of our debt. Of course, you're not going to bite the hands it feeds you. I mean, our country's run by fools, but they're not complete fools. So yeah, Greg, the person that you wrote down, that's the person I'm talking about. I mean, I've checked out a lot of people, and they've been talking about how they've predicted numbers to the day, and they're saying that they're expecting possibly silver to be in the triple digits. Now, I can't guarantee that's going to happen, but the problem is he won't give the day. And if you want to know the day, you have to pay $800 on his channel, on his other channel, for him to give that information. And this is a person that supposedly talks about religion. I think that's a crappy thing to do. I'll tell you this much. If anybody is paying that $800 from that person, and you got the exact date, send it to me, and I will make a video and give it out freely to everyone. I think that is such a low-life, scummy thing to do, because obviously if that person is so good at the predictions because he could see a trend to the point where he's making money, because he actually bragged about selling off at $49 in the exact day. So that means he's making money hand over foot, knowing how the system is rigged. So it's not like this person's starving to death. And to charge people, and by the way, that $800 fee is supposedly a discount. If they're charging that, that is taking advantage of the people, and I think that is so sad. If I had that information, I would give it out freely, because it benefits the people. Jacob Mungstrup, and forgive me if I say that wrong, say, bar none, would you suggest to store physical silver bars in a vault in the bank? Here's my thing. What happens if you put anything in a bank and that bank decides to not open its doors? How do you get anything that you put in the bank? Now, that's suggesting that the bank closes. That doesn't happen every day, but if you saw, like, for example, what happened in Greece, banks were shut down. So here's the thing. If you cannot hold it in your hand, you do not own it. So here is my recommendation. Do not store anything of value somewhere where you could not possibly get it back.
And that is why I keep telling people to stay away from banks. Because if all of a sudden there is a bank holiday, you may have a key to your vault, but you do not have a key to open the bank. And when you actually deposit something in the bank, you're technically giving it back to them. You no longer own it. So if they want to change it, why do you think, for example, if you don't pay your taxes, they can automatically deduct it from your bank account? They have the ability to go into your bank account at any time and steal anything that they want. So if you are going to get physical gold and silver, keep it in your possession. And Glenn's saying, store your bars with the Dutch bank, dude. They're very trustworthy. That is possible, but what happens one day they're not? What happens if all of a sudden they go under? I do not recommend at all, because they may, you ever hear of here today, gone tomorrow? So they may be, I don't believe in any bank as trustworthy. And Deutsche Bank is not doing very well. If all of a sudden they shut their doors, good luck getting your money back. I forget the bank that it happened a couple of years ago, where people like Gerald Celente all of a sudden took away all of their money. If anybody remembers what bank that was, I'm getting a brain freezer a second. But do not put your money in the bank. I tell people all the time, get out of banks, get a federal credit union. A federal credit union is different than a regular bank. So you could still use the same situations as a bank is, but you don't have to worry about a bank holiday. Or at very least, it's more highly unlikely, because nothing's impossible. So if there's any questions about gold and silver or anything like that, I'll be more than happy to share them, which for a nominal fee I'll do it. No, of course not. I'll do it for free. Now, keep in mind, I'm not some professional. I'm giving my opinion. I always tell you to trust your own instincts. Do what you feel is right. But if you ask a question, I'm going to tell you based on my experience. But like I said, with the situation, what's going on with the presidency, with all these things all of a sudden coming out the way they are, I just really feel that there is a reason behind it. And they keep promoting things like the Dow Jones, even though they prop it up. Wall Street is basically still alive because they are reinvesting. They're buying back their own bonds. And they're passing us the bills. That cannot last forever. So, here we go. He's now made another account. What a sad person. That's all right, I just blocked him as well. So, Unit, your name Unit is definitely, it works for you perfectly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Unit is a 40-year-old man he used to work for the government, still gets paid by the government, and says he's a very religious person. So obviously he's desperate for views. So everybody, when you're at your house, just applaud them. 40-year-old man. So anyway, oh yes, MF Global. Greg Hodder, thank you for that. If you look up MF Global, that was very trusted. And then all of a sudden, they closed up and people lost millions of dollars. You couldn't get it back. So why would you trust your possessions that you purchased for protection in the hands of someone else? There are plenty of ways to hide your gold and silver. So there's a thing called hidden in plain sight. Now, if you're a robber and you rob someone's house, what's the first thing you're going to look for? You're going to look for the jewelry. Where are you going to look for jewelry? Well, you're going to look at it in people's drawers. You're going to look for it in an obvious jewelry box. And you're going to look for things like, for example, safes. Well, what I do is I have 3 safes in my house. All 3 safes are dummy safes. So if you look at somebody when they rob a house, they don't have hours to spend. The average person that breaks into a house usually takes about 8 to 10 minutes, and they want to get out of there as fast as they can. So if, for example, they find one of my safes and they try and spend all that time opening it and find out there's nothing in there but paper, like not even valuable paper, just literally pieces of paper, then they see another one, they take the time doing that, they're wasting all this time. So the last thing you want to do is put your valuables in a safe. I mean, unless that safe is so, like, amazingly strong that unless a super, like, professional comes in there, they're not getting it. Let's put it this way. What if, for example, you have just a plant in a pot, and you lift up the plant, and you put a couple of gold bars at the bottom of that plant? Who's going to look there? What if you have in the attic, you store 50 boxes worth of clothes, and in one of those boxes, you put some of your coins there? Who's going to look into those things? What if, for example, you have a can of peaches, and you open the can of peaches, and you place a coin or two in the center? Who's going to check? So the idea is be very tricky with what you do. Now, for example, people could say, oh, well, what if somebody uses a metal detector? Well, anybody have a box of nails? Or a box of screws? Take a couple of coins, put them in the center of that box. There goes your metal detection. There's always ways. You just got to think. And Osmond60 says, Chris, I love your videos. Keep it going. Thank you. I'll try. You know, after all, I mean, I am a paid shill. I get paid to give all this free information out. So, you know, I'm making millions of dollars. That's why I have to be a massage therapist. That's why I have to be a karaoke DJ. That's why I have to do the AdSense on my videos. That's why I have to sell organic soap and sell Oregon pyramids. Because, you know, I'm making millions with the shill money, so I do all those other jobs just because, you know, it's a fun thing to do. The idiocy of the unit. So anyway, that was all facetious. But as far as they say, what about credit unions? That's exactly what I've been talking about for a while now. Banks can be shut down. Banks are run by the government. They are run also by the Federal Reserve. These are things that could easily be shut down. And then people will say things like, well, they're insured. Well, they are insured. But if all of a sudden there's an economic collapse or there's a major devaluation of the currency, do you think with all the problems that are going to happen all at once, they're going to have enough money to give out to all of these people? And even if they did, if the money's devalued and you can't buy anything with it, what good is it? And when it comes to coins, you know, you really have to know how to detect things. There are plenty of videos that teach you, like, for example, a silver eagle weighs, I think, 31.4 grams, give or take. Now, of course, it could be off like a 0.1 or 0.2 grams. But if you know the circumference, if you know the weight, there are magnet tests you could do for bars. The idea is the more knowledge you have, the more you protect yourself from fraudulent people. And here's another thing. If you buy before there is a skyrocket, it reduces the chance of getting fake items. The higher the price goes, the more people are going to try and take advantage of people and try and mislead you and take advantage of you. And Eddie B33 says, people don't understand, and I love that you use that, people don't understand how hard it is to be your own boss. Chris, I'm trying to do that now, making conscious music. And yeah, you're exactly right. It's hard, but it means you are no longer dependent on someone else. I keep telling people all the time, the more independent you are, the less you are to rely on others. And that's why governments want you poor. It's happened that way throughout history. Why do you think the ruling class is always wealthy? Have you ever seen a poor ruling class? It's always the wealthy throughout history. And who do they rule? Do they rule other extremely wealthy people? No, they rule the poor people. They keep them poor by taking their taxes, by taking their land, by controlling their freedom, and somehow we thank them for it because they throw us a couple of little tokens here and there. They use us as pawns in the game of chess. So, my thing is, if you think gold and silver is garbage, if you think gold and silver is not worth it, if you think gold and silver are going to go down to 30 cents an ounce, then don't buy it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do with your money. But what I'm saying is, in my opinion, this is what I do. This is why I do it. And I have plenty of videos explaining the situations. The more you watch, the more information you will get. Now, there are going to be people that watch this video, and I know it's because it happens all the time. It's like, Chris, get to the point. And Chris, you're talking so much. Well, this is a live show, and I get a lot of people asking questions, so I want to make sure people that might be just tuning in get the same opportunity. So here's the thing. When it comes to getting physical gold and silver, there's plenty of different ways you can go. What I say is diversify. Me personally, I have gold coins, I have silver coins, I have gold bars, I have silver bars, I have platinum bars, I have palladium bars, I have platinum coins, I have copper coins, I have government issued coins, and I have generic silver and gold bars. So if you have a little bit of everything, you are protected. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, if a government does any form of confiscation, which I don't think they can do, because how are they going to find it? How do they know? Even if they have records that say, let's say you bought $10,000 worth of silver and you have the receipts for everything, they can trace it. How do they know it didn't get stolen? How do they know you didn't sell it? How do they know you didn't trade it? How do they know it didn't get lost? How can they prove that? So do you think they're going to go to everybody's houses? You could have bought it. What if it was you bought it? What if you bought it as a birthday present for your great-granddaughter or your sister or your whatever or your best friend? How do they know? I mean, just because you buy something does not mean you bought it for yourself or your intent was to keep it. So there'd be no way they could trace these things. But what they do is they base things on fear. So then you say, oh, well, I don't want to do that because they could potentially do this. Well, you could potentially go outside and potentially be hit by a meteorite. Does that mean you never go outside? So, like, for example, people say all the time, well, I don't have a lot of money. How could I buy gold and silver? Well, they have a thing called junk silver. Junk silver is dimes, quarters, and half dollars from 1964 and older. Now, the 1964 Kennedy half dollar is 90% silver. From 1965 to 1970 is 40% silver. So they still have some silver in them. But the only Kennedy half dollar that has 90% silver like the rest of the coins is the 1964. And again, this is learning about how to get your information. So you could buy a silver dime a week, and what will it cost you? $2, $3, maybe $4. So you can add to your stack. And that's why I told people back in 2011, 2012, because just imagine if you were buying a silver dime a week, because that's all you can afford, since 2012, how many would you have now? And I'm sure people can afford a lot more, because I mean, especially let's say somebody smokes. If you're smoking 2 packs a day, especially in New York, that's $20 a day in cigarettes. You quit your cigarette smoking and you put it into silver and gold, just imagine how much you'd buy. So again, if you don't think it's worth it, don't do it. I'm not going to mock you for what you choose to do. If you think the Dow Jones is the best way to invest, if you think paper assets are the best way to invest, God bless you. That's not what I choose to do. So I'm going to end this video in a little bit unless anybody has any questions or anything like that. The bars that I would recommend, the ones that are most recognizable, are J.M. Mathy, Engelhart, Credit Suisse, and Pamp Swiss. Those are the ones that are the most recognizable. Now, of course, you have to be careful because there are counterfeits out there. That's why I don't recommend buying on eBay. Go to major sites. I mean, you have places like Providence Metals, Apmex.com, Goldmart.com. There's so many others that you can go to. I'm not going to just say one particular one over the other. But research, and the more you know. Roga says, what about marijuana? I have a bunch of it jarred up and will cured. What do you think the value will go up in that? Well, I can't really tell people to purchase something that is technically illegal. It would be depending on where you live. So there are plenty of countries in the world where marijuana is perfectly legal, and there's a couple of places in this country itself where it's legal. So if it's legal, then I would say, I'm sure it will have value. but I would never tell anybody to do anything illegal. Donald Bruce says, what's your opinion on roll hunting? Well, what roll hunting is, for example, way back before the silver thing got really into play, there was a way that you could find silver for nothing. What you do is you go to your bank, you give them $500, and say, hi, I would like $500 worth of Kennedy half dollars. And they would give you a box of Kennedy half dollars. What did it cost you? $500. So you spent the exact amount. And then what you do is you'd go through every one of them and find the silver. And if whatever you didn't find, you could redeposit into your bank account. So you didn't lose any money. Especially if you're dealing with a bank where you had an account. Or, again, like I say now, Federal Credit Union. I did that once, and I only found one silver half dollar. But it's one more than I had, and it didn't cost me anything. So, I mean, if you want to take the time, it's very, it's fun to do, and it doesn't cost you anything. So again, all you have to do is, if you have a bank account or a Federal Credit Union account, it's going to be harder to do nowadays, because most people pretty much know this trick, but it might be because the price has gone down so long, maybe people have forgotten about it. But you take $500, you go to your bank account or your Federal Credit Union account and say, I would like $500 worth of maybe quarters, or dimes, or half dollars. You could do smaller amounts if you want. It doesn't have to be 500. And then all you have to do is search through them, and whatever is in the silver, you just redeposit back in your bank account. They don't charge you for this. So if you get, for example, $500 worth of half dollars, they give you 500 and it costs 500. If you search all 500 and you find 10 old silver coins, well, you just made money. So you just take that replacement amount, put it back in. So it doesn't cost you anything. But it does take a lot of time, and these days it's going to be very rare. I mean, there was one time I went for Chinese food, and when they gave me the change, as soon as I heard it, because you can hear it, silver coins have a little ding, like a bell to them. And as soon as they handed it and dropped the change in my hand, I knew I had a silver quarter. And I looked, it was like a 1932 silver quarter. That quarter's worth about $4 or $5. Now, $4 or $5 may not seem like a lot, but it's worth more than a quarter. And if you get a bunch of them, what do you think happens? So ego ulteriarism says that is not good advice. Like I said, it can be a waste of time. But they asked me if I do it. If people want to do it, it's fine. It's not bad advice. If somebody has a lot of free time and they decide, should I go murder someone today, or should I go harass somebody, or be like the unit and go on other people's YouTube channel and waste time by trolling people, or they can go and count coins. It's not really a waste of time, because if it kept somebody from doing some criminal activity or something ultimately stupid, well, ego, if you think it's a waste of time, then don't do it. Somebody asked the question, I'm asking. See, if people are going to be silly with their questions, it's not a waste of time. Like, making a puzzle may be a waste of time for somebody, but if it actually keeps them occupied and they're having fun doing it, it's not a waste of time. So when somebody asks a question, you don't have to agree, but if you think it's a waste of time, that's fine. You don't have to repeat it 50 times. Unbelievable how people are. Ego, you used to come to my comic book channel. Okay, again, ego. It's all about having fun. If you're doing it for profit, let me just say this straight out. If you're getting gold and silver for pure profit, you're doing it for the wrong reason. So ego, if you are collecting gold and silver just to make money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Like I say, I do it for insurance. So if that meant I was going to be home for an hour and didn't have anything to do, and instead of wasting my time trolling on somebody's channel like other people do, I can actually go through some coins and see if there's some silver coins, and I spent the time doing it with family and had fun, then it's not a waste of time. You're seeing it only from a monetary point of view. That would mean everything you do. See, right now, if you're going by that, you coming here and commenting on my channel, that's a waste of time. You could be earning money. But instead, you're repeatedly saying the same thing over and over again. But you see how I can turn it? So
you're saying how looking for something that could potentially be fun and turn it into extra silver coins is a waste of time because it doesn't make you money, but yet you're coming here repeatedly saying the same thing on my channel. Shouldn't you be working making money? Because you're not making any money doing this. So isn't your comments a waste of time? So anyway, that's just what it is. Mark Rose says, where's the best place to buy gold and silver? I won't promote just one particular place because there's so many different ones. It really depends on where you're located. I would stay away from eBay unless you absolutely know what you're buying. That's the one place I would stay away from. My thing is research, but you want to stay with a place that's reputable. Now, cheaper doesn't always mean better, because remember, when they charge that credit card fee, it's because they have to pay insurance for the fact that, let's say somebody paid for a bunch of coins on credit card and then disputed that charge. They get that money taken out, so they have to pay for the possibility for insurance. So sometimes you're going to pay a little bit more over spot. But like I said, I mentioned a couple of places. There's like Goldmart.com, ProvidenceMetals.com, AppMex.com. There's a lot of the bigger places. Stay in those. So there's always ways to do it. But my thing is, again, knowledge is power. It's all about researching. The more you know, the better possibilities of doing the best for you. And this is what I say to people. What do you think is going to be better if there is a potential collapse? Now, I'm talking a stock market collapse, because they talk about this all the time, and even the president himself has said he's basing our economy and how, quote unquote, well it's doing based on the Dow Jones. Well, if all of a sudden the Dow Jones flops down 100, 200, 500, 1,000 points and people start panicking, and the news media and the president's been saying the economy's doing well based on how strong the Dow Jones is, well, all of a sudden, if you see a collapse in that, you're going to see that faith gone. Because what are they going to say? And then what do people always do? That's why you saw when every time they did QE1, QE2, and QE3, prices of metals went up. All right, so Ego, I don't know what you want me to tell me. If you want to go to eBay to buy your gold and silver, go right ahead. I think that's a silly thing to do unless you really know what you're doing. eBay, there's, you know how many places that are on eBay are from China, and they try and take advantage and screw people all the time. I used to buy coins on eBay, but it's because I would measure them, I would weigh them. If you don't know how to do that stuff, you're increasing your risks of being taken advantage of. So I would say stay towards more of the recommended places. What I would do is go to silver and gold websites, do research, read the reviews, ask questions. Osmond60 said, a very good question. He says, when do you sell back? That's a very good question. Again, what I tell people is you trust your own instincts. It depends on the situation. Because like I said, and you may not have heard this earlier, if all of a sudden gold is roughly around $1,320 an ounce, if all of a sudden next month silver shoots up to $10,000 an ounce, that doesn't mean the gold became more valuable. It meant the currency became less valuable. So do you want to sell it at that point to get something that is not worth as much as it once was? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, to sell back to get dollars. I mean, usually throughout history, when there is a collapse of the faith of a currency, it usually starts over again. So my thing is, again, you hold it as insurance. So again, if you're doing it for profit, you're going to take the chance. I'm not going to tell people to sell to get profit. If you want to do that, that's solely up to you. So what I tell people is the more research you do, the better chances you have. And Ego, you're basically using this all for a chance to talk about money. So you're not doing it for insurance. You're not doing it for protection. You're doing it for profit. So, I mean, I don't know why you're listening to my channel other than to do self-promotion, because I talk about gold and silver as insurance. If you're doing it to make money, you're going to be disappointed more than you are going to be happy. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for leaving their questions and taking the time. You do what you want. All I'm saying is I really think at this point, before mid-October, and especially before the election, there's going to be some kind of event that, and I'm not talking nuclear war or any of that fear porn stuff, you don't need that, but I think there will be a problem with the Dow Jones because it cannot continue to keep getting higher and higher, especially when our own government is pumping money into it. That can only last for so long. It's based on confidence. All right, we have another person. That's probably the unit made another thing. I mean, really, I'm not even going to give this person the light of day. So, I mean, if people want to come here and make silly comments, I mean, it just shows how sad some people's lives are, that their purpose in life is to go on YouTube and say something stupid. That's their achievement. So I may not get everything right, but at least I'm trying to help other people. And Osmond60 says, thank you, Chris. You're welcome. Hopefully I helped people. If you have any questions, leave comments. I'm sure other people will respond as well. Do your own due diligence. Research. Don't just base things on what I say or anything that anybody says. Get the information and see what resonates with you. But the more you learn, the less you have to worry about. Okay, Ego, I'm just going to say good luck to you, and I'm going to wish you well, but I'm going to block you because obviously we don't see eye to eye, and that's fine. But if you're going to keep regurgitating the same thing, obviously you should go to a channel that resonates with you better. So anyway, I want to thank the block button. It's a beautiful invention. I have many problems with YouTube, but their invention of the block button is absolutely one of the best things they ever created because it stops fools. I mean, they'll just make new profiles because that's what stalkers do. Oh yeah, Mark Rose says, dude, trolls is something you just have to deal with. F them. Oh, I have fun with them. That's why it's like I tell people all the time, don't ever be afraid to confront evil. People always say, oh, ignore. Well, if somebody's bullying you and you ignore them, do you think that stops them from bullying you? Or do you think that makes them bully you even more? And Gabby Esperanza says, I know you get a lot of crap, but you're doing good things for people. Don't get weary. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, like I said, in video games, if you are facing enemies, you know you're going in the right direction. So I'm used to it. I just have fun with it. I mean, back in the days, the reason, like that guy Unit, the government, the ex-government who gets paid by the government to troll. I mean, I can't confirm he gets paid to troll, but he definitely gets paid by the government. He doesn't mention that on his channel when he asks for all his donations. He and I were going to get into a fight at one point, because at that point, my father had just passed away. He died in a fire. My wife and I were having marital problems. We got separated for about a month or two. And this person pretended to be my friend and started talking a lot of crap to me. And at that time, back in 2011, when I was just brand new to this stuff, I was listening to the people like Alex Jones and thinking about all this fear porn. And I didn't understand it back then. So I was very emotional at that point. And he got to the point where I just wanted to fight him. Well, that was 2012. Ever since then, I mean, how many people have been following my channel have heard me even mention this moron's name? Because I'm trying to forget these people and move on. And this person to this day is still, he subscribes to my channel and says stupid things and has my phone number because I thought we were friends at one point. He just used it because that's what evil, shady pieces of garbage do. But, I mean, I'm not afraid to confront people. And it doesn't hurt me the way they think it used to. Back then, I wanted to literally fly down and fight them. Whether I lost or won didn't matter to me. But I think ignoring is not always the best way because they will continue. And like I said, 2012 is when I had the problem with him. I've ignored him ever since. To this day, he still follows me. And I have plenty of people that do that. That's just what happens. When you're doing the right thing, you're going to be trolled by people because they don't want you to succeed. Noctro says, just came in. What are your thoughts on storing precious metals at a vault? Like I said, if you can't hold it in your hands, you don't own it. I don't trust it. Here's the thing. You could do whatever you want. But me personally, I will not put anything of value
in somebody else's hands. Because if you need it in an emergency, let's say, for example, the person that you give it to, let's say, like you said, silver.com, Mike Maloney, his site. Let's say he takes your gold and he's 100% honest and he has it in storage somewhere. Now, he's not going to have it next door to you. It's going to be very far away. But let's say he's 100% honest. And let's say tomorrow there's a hurricane or a tornado or some kind of storm. And it knocks out the power in your area for 2 weeks. No more internet. No more electricity. No more emails. No more phone calls. Power is out. Gas stations are closed. You can't get even gas for your car because you forgot to put gas in it. So now your car is basically on empty. You can't even drive the hundreds of miles, if not thousands of miles, to go get your gold and silver. How are you getting it? Even your bank. Well, if there's a storm and the electricity is out, what good are ATMs? That's why I always tell people about, for example, like Bitcoin. People are always saying how wonderful Bitcoin is. Well, good luck using your Bitcoins if all of a sudden the power's out. Let's say you put all of your money into Bitcoins and you're doing incredibly well with Bitcoins and you still just buy food on a week-to-week basis. And let's say you have a store that takes your Bitcoins. You're all sitting there, life is wonderful. And then all of a sudden there's a storm. And 2 weeks goes by and you can't get power. How are you getting your Bitcoins? How are you using them? This is why I tell people to be very careful about get-rich-quick schemes and how they talk about profit and how, oh, look how well something's doing. Because if you can't use it, what good is it? And that is why you can have millions of dollars. Let's say you hate gold and silver, you hate stocks, you hate Bitcoins, you are 100% into investing in currency only. And you put all of your currency into the bank that is 1 mile from your house, so it's within walking distance. If that bank no longer has power because of an electrical system malfunction or a storm, how do you get your money out? Doesn't matter that it's a block away or a mile away. If there is no ATMs working because there's no electricity and they close the bank so you can't enter it, what good is that possession? It's like being in jail and the key to unlock your cage is 3 inches away from your reach. What good is the fact that it's that close if you can't utilize it? So my thing is, you are entitled to invest in any way you want. I'm not sitting here saying that gold and silver is the answer to all prayers. Gold and silver can be manipulated just as much as anything else. I hate to inform people that that can happen. But I would trust something like gold and silver more than I would trust a system that is based on only faith and trust in the government by making digital and paper money that is backed by nothing. Gold you have to dig out of the ground. Now, yes, you can get tungsten. You can get corrupt people. But again, if you practice on how to find out and how to spot fake things, you could reduce that. You can buy a bar and have it checked. They can take a bar, drill into it, and check it. Because the beautiful thing about gold and silver is it doesn't matter the condition of them. You know, if you have, like, for example, I still collect every now and then, but I'm not into it as much. When I had my comic book channel, if you have a 9.8, which is almost a perfect comic book, and you bend the corner, you could lose hundreds of dollars. But if you have a gold bar and take a nail and scratch it all up and down, hasn't changed the value one bit. That's why, for example, what's the difference between spending a $20 bill that's perfectly flat and beautiful and a $20 bill that's all crumpled up? They still have the same value as of now. So it doesn't matter the condition. So be careful when it comes to stuff like that. The more you research, the more you learn, the better off you are. My recommendation is, for those asking the question, you don't have to follow if you don't want to, do not put anything of value or anything that you may need in the hands of somebody else. Because even if they are 100% honest, It only takes something as simple as a power outage to keep you from getting what you need. So my thing is, don't do it. And Zebra Tango Zebra says, not enough gold and silver to run the economy. Well, what if they raise the value of that gold and silver? What if they include platinum and palladium? They can absolutely do that. They did it before. They've done it for thousands of years. The only problem is now that because of how much money they've printed, you need so much more of it. That's why they give the illusion of things being so expensive. One gold coin back in 1930 would buy a very expensive suit. One gold coin today would buy the same very expensive suit. The suit did not get more expensive. It's the value of the currency that has gone down. Since the Federal Reserve opened in 1913, we have lost 96% of purchasing power of that dollar the day before the Federal Reserve opened. So when people say things like there's not enough gold and silver to run the economy, that is 100% false, because the economy is based on an illusion and on a lie. It's based on paper dollars that the more they print, the more devalued they become. So when you see prices go up, you assume, oh, it's gotten more expensive. You don't stop and think it's the devaluation of the currency and you need more of it to make the purchase. So throughout history, gold and silver have been able to handle an economy, because then you have real prices, and prices of things would go down. And if all of a sudden gold went from $1,300 and some odd dollars an ounce to all of a sudden $10,000 or $20,000 an ounce, well, you could definitely make an economy with that. And the same thing, and Zebra Tango Zebra says, yep, a mercury dime would buy a gallon of gas in 1950. It will still buy a gallon of gas today. So that's why I'm telling you, the coin, the metal, keeps up with inflation. So a mercury dime that had 90% silver could buy gas, which was probably in 1950, probably around 15 to 20 cents a gallon. Let's say 20 cents a gallon in 1950. I could be wrong. So that mercury dime would be able to buy 1 gallon of gas, which is approximately about 20 cents, maybe less, in 1950. Excuse me a second. I thought I was going to sneeze. Okay, so now let's go to 2016. Gas is no longer 10, 15, 20 cents a gallon. Gas is now $2 to $3 a gallon. Well, that same dime with that same amount of silver will still be able to buy that same amount of gas, because the value of the metal has kept up with the inflation. And the more they print the dollars, the less valuable they come. And people have to understand this illusion. Things are not getting more expensive. You could buy the same things back in those days that you can today with gold and silver coins. You just need more of the fiat debt notes, because, like you say, look up the value of the Federal Reserve note since 1913. The US dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power, which means the prices of your items have gone up that much. Gold goes up and matches with inflation, and silver follows along. But because gold is rarer and people store it, that's why countries buy gold and silver. Why do you think, for example, people will say things like, well, China, don't they buy a lot of our debt? They sure do. Now, if dollars had long-term potential and China was buying all of these bonds, wouldn't they just store those bonds and save them? If they felt like, oh, 30-year bonds? Oh, they'll be worth even more in 30 years. What are they doing? They're selling them as fast as they can, and they're building cities to the point so quickly that they are not even having anybody living in them. Google cities in China that nobody lives in. They are building cities the size of Manhattan, Los Angeles, Chicago, and they are empty. Because what are they doing? They're playing hot potato with our currency, getting rid of it as fast as they can and converting it into tangible assets. Now, the average person like you and I can't buy a lot of houses. We can't buy a lot of real estate. Definitely enough to build a city. So yes, you can invest in other things, but good luck moving a property. You can have, like you see in the picture, that 1,000 gram worth of gold. That'll fit in your pocket. And depending on the value of that, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars in your pocket. Good luck putting a house in your pocket. So yes, you could buy art, you could buy real estate, you could buy lots of other things, but you want to remember, is it something that is easily movable? Is it something easily hidden? It's a lot easier to take somebody's land than it is to take a 10-ounce bar of gold. Because if you have it in your pocket and they don't know it's there, how do they steal it? Good luck hiding your property. So you have to think in bigger things. So anyway, I'm going to end this video now. This has definitely been a long video. For those of you who took the time to comment, thank you very much. For those who are trolling me, good luck making your next fake thing so you could say stupid things that I could block. If that makes you feel good and you're achieving something in life, because you got to stop, the shills like me, because giving out all this free information, that's what shills do. Just give it a thumbs up, share it, and like I said, be on the lookout. I have a feeling that between mid-September and sometime through the beginning of October, you're going to see some kind of event that people may possibly turn to gold and silver. And if I'm wrong, hey, that's the thing with any investment. You're taking the chance. If you cannot take the risk, don't do it. Do not spend all of your money on gold and silver if you cannot pay your rent, if you can't buy groceries. But you can spend $10, $20. It's better than a paper market that has the potential to go to zero, in my opinion. So Jacob says, thanks, Chris. Thank you. And Noctro says, thank you for the show. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the support. If you want to give this a thumbs up and share it, please do. Good luck with everything. And don't forget, you have your trolls and your units spayed or neutered. Have a great day. And I will see you next video. Ta-ta.